One obviously was the mental model thing. It's like, yeah, I don't care about battery. I'm not using a battery powered. I'm using it plugged in.
Stop. My name's Eric Welander, and welcome to Windy Tech, a channel all about smart home tech in the Apple ecosystem. Today we're going to talk about, you guessed it, listening to podcasts in the shower. So if you think about the ultimate smart home, it's really all about being able to have exactly what you want right when you want it with the least amount of effort. It's about being able to know that your garage door is closed before you go to bed. It's about being able to turn all the lights off in your place with one tap of a button. And we've talked previously on this channel about smart lighting, smart entertainment, and I think part of that really that we haven't talked about much is smart audio and getting the right pieces of audio, whether that's podcasts or music, where you want it and when you want it. If you're not very familiar with podcasts, they're these audio recordings of shows that are published on the internet through this technology called RSS, which really is not important for you to understand. But you then listen to those podcasts with some kind of podcast service. On Apple, of course, there's Apple's own podcasts, and Spotify is recently becoming a bigger player in the podcast space, but there are also a lot of other independent podcast clients that offer a unique experience in one way or another. Now, for years I was using Overcast, which is made by a famous podcaster, Marco Arment, and it's a fantastic app, especially if you want great audio quality and great quality of speeding up people's voices without changing the pitch and getting it to sound natural. But it only works on iOS devices and a web app, which is kind of okay. And I started looking at other options. I'd heard of a lot of people trying PocketCasts, and they not only have an iOS app, but they also have a Mac app and a great web app, as well as Android and Windows, which doesn't matter as much to me. But then they also have an integration with Sonos and the Amazon Echo. After trying that for a few weeks, it's really enabled me to bring podcasts into more places in my home. And it's really nice to go to the gym in the morning, be listening to a podcast on my phone, put my phone down, get ready to go in the shower, and resume that same podcast in the shower without having even used the same device. So how am I making this all work with PocketCasts? So in my bathroom, I've put an Echo Dot. Now, I've made sure that it's away from any water, and I'm sure Amazon wouldn't officially rate it as water resistant. I tend not steam up the bathroom too much, and it seems to be just fine. That said, it's also a $50 electronic device, and often you can get them for much less than $50, as I did myself. So it's not a huge investment. I wouldn't put a HomePod in my bathroom, but every bathroom and situation is different. And also the other thing is an Echo Dot, well, the new one has a lot better speakers than earlier generations. It's still not a great music speaker. It does have a headphone jack, so you can plug it into other speakers if you need to, but it's actually just fine for spoken word and plenty loud enough to then project over the noise of a shower. And I think that's really why it makes sense to think about an Amazon Echo in what's otherwise smart home tech in the Apple ecosystem. After all, Amazon's voice platform integrates with Apple Music. It also talks directly to Sonos really nicely. And so there's a lot of different other reasons why, even if you have HomePods, you might want to think about an Amazon speaker or two in your home, especially because for situations like this in a shower, or maybe something like a garage or other places where, you know, a nice or smart home tech might be a little bit at risk from either heat or water, having something that's a little cheaper is nice. And I don't really see, even though Apple might make, let's say, like $100 smaller HomePod, I don't think they're ever going to make something that's $50 and then frequently goes on sale for $30. That just seems outlandish for an Apple product. Now, you could also achieve this same kind of result with an AirPlay 2 or Bluetooth speaker. But for me, one of the key things is I just want to be able to use my voice and not have to worry about, is my phone or another device close enough to pair to the Bluetooth speaker? And that's just all a lot more steps than I was willing to go through. Again, the ultimate smart home and making it as minimal effort as possible to have what you want. So you have your Amazon Echo set up in an area of your home where you want to be listening to podcasts more and commanding those with your voice. Presuming you already have your Amazon Echo set up through the normal means, you just simply open the app and then go to Skills and Games, and then you can search for PocketCasts. It's 2 words, not one, and then click on the skill, and then you can go ahead and enable it and then sign in with your PocketCasts account, and then that will start to sync all of your data that you also have on your phones. So, Editor Eric here to clarify that this Amazon Alexa integration for PocketCasts is available in the US, the UK, Canada, and Australia. So it's all set up on the phone now. What's it like to actually use it? Now, PocketCasts has a really great support page on their website that shows you all the different commands and the nuances of them that you can give to an Echo. And that's, again, if you haven't used an Amazon Echo, it's one of the downsides of it is you often have to be very prescriptive about what you want it to say. Another thing too is that it's not a music service, so you can't in the Echo tell it that this is its default music service. You have to use it as a just another integration, which means that you have to use the words PocketCasts when you talk to the Echo. Personally, I haven't found a lot of the commands to work amazingly well, but the one thing that is really reliable is resuming what's called your up next cue. And that takes a little bit of understanding of how PocketCasts works as a podcast player, in that you have this up next cue, which is kind of like a lot of music services have this too, where you can add podcasts or songs or whatever, in this case podcasts, to your up next queue, and you can either add them to the top of the queue or the end of the queue. And when your current episode is done, it will just move on to the next one in up next. And that's a nice way to sort of build a playlist as episodes are released that makes sense for you that week with what your mood is and what, kinds of shows you want to be listening to that week, depending on what's come out in your subscriptions. So to simply resume your up next on the Echo, you just say, Alexa, tell PocketCasts to resume my up next.
Would you like to keep playing Accidental Tech Podcast?
Yes.
Okay, playing 339, Catch Up Momentum.
Voltage and eventually fried. I'm assuming fried the batteries.
Stop. Now, you might not be wanting to do this in exactly a shower situation, but whatever place you're wanting to put it, every acoustic situation is different. But personally, the Echo has no issue hearing me over the shower, as well as I have no issue hearing the audio from it. Now, of course, if you're putting this in a bathroom, be sure that it's elevated away from water. I have mine on this kind of vase thing that was already in our bathroom. Chances are you can find something either you already own or some kind of a cheap mount on Amazon for an Echo Dot and be able to get your device away from the water. So then, as a podcast player on my iPhone, I've actually found PocketCasts to be a really solid app. So Editor Eric here with a quick note on pricing. I don't know why I forgot to mention this in the main video, but PocketCasts has a one-time payment of $3.99, like $4 US for the iOS app. And then the Amazon Echo integration is no additional cost to that. If you want to get the Mac or Windows or web version of PocketCasts, then that is a one-time payment of $9, but has a 14-day free trial. I should also note that Overcast, the other podcast client I mentioned, is free with ads and then an optional $10 a year subscription for some additional features. I really like the subtle effects they've added to the play and pause buttons on all of their platforms, and the interface is pretty easy to understand, although maybe a little different than other podcast players. You have your main list of all the podcasts you subscribe to, and then you can go over to filters and see from there new releases, ones you're partway through, ones that you've downloaded to this phone, and you can set up automatic download settings in the preferences for your iPhone. Say, I always like to have some of my latest podcasts on my phone so I don't need to use data when I'm out. And then of course, you can go through and discover new podcasts and subscribe to them there. And that's often where I sign up for podcasts and subscribe and manage all of that is on my phone. I'm not obviously doing that a lot on my Amazon Echo. And then I also like this whole thing, almost like YouTube, where you have like a watch history in YouTube where you can see what videos you've watched. You can go here and see different stats about all the different podcasts you've listened to over time and your history. Now, I don't have quite as many stats on here yet because I haven't been using the service as long as I did with Overcast, but I think that's really well laid out. And for discovery of podcasts, they have basically anything that's going to be in the iTunes podcast directory. So pretty much any podcast that you've heard of, and plenty that you haven't, are available on PocketCasts. Now, if you want to add a podcast that's not in the major directories, let's say it's a private, like members only podcast, I find the easiest way with PocketCasts, it's not very obvious, and there might be another way, but you just go to the Discover tab and then you paste in the link to the feed of the podcast that you're trying to listen to, and then you hit search, and then it seems to come up just fine. Hopefully that works for you as well. Now, I also have Sonos throughout my home, and we'll probably be talking about that on future episodes. And I've played with this integration with Sonos, and it works fine. I've found sometimes the sync between me playing on Sonos and then getting back to the iOS devices doesn't seem to be as reliable as I found it to be very reliable between playing something on my Amazon Echo and then immediately picking that back up on an iOS device. Maybe I haven't tried it enough, but that's just been my experience. Otherwise, I find the Sonos integration to work great. You can just access your podcasts in there and resume your up next queue as well. And let me know down in the comments what kinds of speaker systems you have set up at home for listening, maybe in those kind of bizarre situations. You know, I don't know if we all want to hear about your bathroom setup, but maybe it's that, or a garage, or outside in a porch. It's great to get ideas from other people down in the comments. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. It does help other people find it. Subscribe to the channel, as I mentioned, if you aren't already, and go check out the channel on Instagram. I'm starting to post more stuff on Instagram. It's at WindyTechNet, so check that out if you haven't already. Thanks again so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.